I'm Rosa Mendez, and I'm here at the #1 Long Island broadcast, Monty and Pharaoh. I had the best time ever!
Hey, listen, Daddy, you're listening to the #1 broadcast, Monty and Pharaoh, Daddy, in Long Island. The best pro wrestling broadcast of all time, I think.
Jimmy, I got to tell you, man, it feels good to be back on YouTube. It was quite disappointing what happened to us, but we bounced back fairly quickly.
Well, what else would we do? We're almost at 5,000 subscribers.
Well, speaking of that, man, we need more members.
Okay.
What do you think we need to do to get the people of those 5,000 subscribers to come on and join the team as a Monty and the Pharaoh member?
Nudity is out of the question. Any other ideas?
I don't know, man. I don't know. But what I do have a few ideas.
Well, just like Prel, they should tell 2 friends, and they could tell 2 friends, and so on and so on. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. Check out all our content.
But that's, you know what? That's why you're the star of the show, because guess what? Members get special content. Even we spoke about it. Pharaoh came to me one day and he goes, man, what's the deal? I can't even watch some of these videos because I'm not a member. And I said, there you go, Pharaoh. You got to be a member because this is what the members get. They get free content that none of the other fans that watch this show get.
That's right.
You get free autographs from some of these wonderful stars that come in, right?
Nice.
All you do is you go to the MNP webpage, our own page, and shoot us an email and say, hey, man, I want a picture of Tommy Rich, I want a picture of whatever. And boy, that's on its way.
We give them their choice.
That's right.
We rock.
We do rock.
And you need to rock too. Join.
I wondered and waited for instant set. United we stand, divided we fall. To wait here for you, holding it together, just like a desert flower, waiting on the rain to come. And all I know is agonized confusion. And what I'm saying is you don't realize what this means. Have we seen our finest hour? Good times surely will come.
All right, welcome to episode 5 of SOB Sports. I'm your co-host for the evening from Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Mike Monty, from the great television show Monty and the Pharaoh, seen every Thursday at 9 p.m. straight out of Village Connection Radio in Ronkonkoma, where we have episode 5, which I'm going to repeat myself, of Mantaur and PN News. You guys have been all out there. You guys have been listening to these guys, and their podcast / broadcast is growing. So how you guys enjoying doing your own show?
Ooh. I'm loving every minute of it, man. Just glad to be on the line again, man. Good stuff.
Well, it's always good to see you guys, man. I got to tell you, you guys are doing a wonderful job. I get a lot of great feedback. You guys are growing every week. So, I mean, do you guys feel you guys are ex-professional wrestlers, ex-bodybuilders, ex-everything. I mean, is it somewhat nerve-wracking doing your own podcast?
No, man, it's a lot of fun, man. It gives us a way to reach out and touch our fans again. It's an opportunity for us to show the passion that we still have for the business and, moving forward in life. Professional wrestling isn't everything. There's a lot of family support that goes on behind the scenes, a lot of friend support, a lot of traveling, a lot of time thinking about your character and your gimmick. And, now we just get to sit back and enjoy the fruits of our labor after 30 years of pro wrestling. And it's kind of nice to be able to share this part of our lives with the fans out there.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, yeah, this has been fantastic opportunity to get back here and start dealing with the fans again. It's been a long time. I didn't really have an official retirement, but my last match was in 2016. In fact, Mike Halleck was around. He came over to Europe, and we did a couple shows together, and it was a good time. But life's been kind of it's been a shakeup, getting off the TV or getting out of the wrestling industry and working a 9 to 5. But it's just nice to get back and give back to fans. I've always said about wrestling, we're nothing without the fans.
True story.
You know what? I love that attitude, man, because I got to tell you, sometimes, I spent a little time with Mike in Florida, and I got to tell you, he's a really good guy. But, you run into some guys that just, but you know what? I think that's life in general. And by the way, Bruce from SOB Sports has joined us. Bruce is a sponsor, and he also has a show on our channel. So I asked him to join in. Bruce, Bruce, welcome aboard.
Hey, Bruce, welcome aboard.
He said he was going to throw something up at us there. I guess this is it. Hey, Bruce, what the hell's up, man? Welcome to our show, SOB Sports. You're officially an SOB, brother.
Thanks for the welcome, guys. How's it going, Paul? How's it going, Mike?
It's going great, living the dream. Better. And you know what? Now that we got you here, Monty, you can fuck off. Take a powder.
Well, hold on. I'm not going to let you off the hook. I know you guys got a show to do, but something recently happened, and I want you guys to weigh in. Over the weekend, we all know that WrestleMania was around, and you have all those shows going on and things like that. Unfortunately, it looks like Rick Steiner ran into a wrestler who happens to be a transgender. Name is Giselle Shaw. I know this is a touchy subject, but I'd love you guys to weigh in on that.
Are you sure you want my 100% honest opinion on that subject?
That's what we're talking about. I'm asking you guys how you feel. It seems that Rick Steiner was not happy with the transgender affiliation in the pro wrestling world. What are your guys' thoughts?
Yeah, I can't really blame him, too much. Here you got a guy with a penis dressed up as a woman, dressing in the women's locker room. That shouldn't fly. There's no place in this world for that. I don't give a shit what the president of the United States says okay or is not okay. It's not in the Bible, man. So it shall not be written. Plain and simple. I don't think there's no room for a transgender in the locker room itself. If they want to perform, and if the women are okay with it, then I'm okay with it. But none of the women have said that they're okay or not okay. So, and I've heard that Steiner made these comments, and a lot of pretty harsh comments, from what I understand. But I still haven't seen any proof. It was at WrestleMania weekend, and WrestleCon, there is videographers everywhere. There's press everywhere. And nobody got a clip or a tidbit of anything, which I find hard to believe. So I don't know if she's just reaching out for attention or if it really did happen.
You know what? I thought you were going to throw up the thing about. I heard something about the WWE being up for sale and the sale being going through. But you're talking about transgender. Excuse me. Okay, as far as amateur sports, I don't think there's any room for guys participating. You know, the one thing you don't see in transgender sports is you don't see women participating in men's sports, or women who would identify as men performing in men's sports. You only see the opposite. So for me, it just seems like a big gimmick. And you know what? Girls have a vagina, boys have a penis, and that's the way I learned it in school, and that's kind of the way I feel. We don't need all this transgender and sexuality and all this other crap happening in sports. When I'm watching sports or wrestling, it should be all about the entertainment and not about the politics or the bullshit.
Bruce, you want to weigh in on that?
Well, we're having actually locally, one of the local businesses here recently hosted a drag queen storybook hour, and he's at one of the other local businesses wasn't very happy and actually went to protest it, and they're actually getting a lot of kickback on it. It's pretty sad that you can't have an opinion nowadays without getting some type of backlash on it. I mean, I don't think that men should not be competing in women's sports. Women should not be competing in men's sports. Obviously there's a gender is a gender. I just don't understand why this is being pushed down our throats so much right now. That it's everywhere.
Yeah,
Hey, Mike,
in
in your career in pro wrestling, did you run across any transgender wrestlers, or probably too early of a time, or any homosexual wrestlers that made you feel uncomfortable?
Yeah, no, absolutely not. I mean, I came across a lot of homosexual wrestlers that were gay, guys were gay, and, even women that were lesbians. And, one thing I found out is that they don't really push their lifestyle on other people. And as long as you don't push your lifestyle on me, I'm okay with it. I don't have a problem with it. Don't have an issue with it. But when you start making me watch you kiss another dude or things like that, I got a problem with this. So as long as you're not forcing it on me, I'm okay, totally 100% okay with it. I mean, I just think that either you're a man or you're a woman, and you can't be fucking both. And if you got a penis, you're a man. If you got a vagina, you're a woman. And that's the way it should be. But like you guys said, this transgender stuff is being shoved right down our throat. And why, I don't know. But, I got more important things that I want to worry about.
It just shows me that it's not generic. The way it's getting thrown down our throats by the media and everything like that, it's not a generic movement. I mean, I've got family members that are gay and lesbian and all that stuff, but there's just no need for it. They don't shove it down people's throats. They live their lives, and they live wonderful lives. And I just don't see the need for them to shove it down our throats. It's like, hey, should we shove it down their throats that we're talking about shoving things down your throats? How ironic is that? That's pretty funny. But the thing is it doesn't need to be this way. Everybody should just live and let live, and we can go on, man. I don't care if there's gay. I mean, the manager that I had in wrestling, Chris Cole, was flaming homosexual. He told me himself. He says, "I'm queer as a $3 bill," and that kind of thing has been around the business forever. Nobody ever forced himself on me, but then and I can't understand that because I'm such a great looking guy, but it just never happened in my realm. But I've been around a lot of great gay guys and worked with a lot of them, had some great matches with them. So,
and I have to say that Rick Steiner does have a tendency to be a bully. This isn't the first time that Rick Steiner's went out on a limb and called somebody out for what they're doing or what they look like or anything. Rick Steiner's known to bully people around if you let him. And, the way that you get by that is, just fucking confront him. That's all. But yeah, Rick Steiner does have a issue with being a bully towards people. That's for sure. It's not the
Hey,
first
You know
Mike.
who he didn't bully? You know who he didn't bully? Gary Albright. Gary Albright sent him Air Albright in the NCAA championships, dude. He wrestled him a few times. I'm pretty sure of that.
But being a bully and being a true tough guy are two different things. Was Rick Steiner a tough guy? Was Scott Steiner a tough guy?
I would say Scott probably is more of a tough guy than Rick. I think Rick's just a fucking bully, period. And if you let him bully you, like anything, they're just going to keep on bullying you, right? I think Scotty's he's more tough than Rick is, I think, by far.
I personally think Rick's the tougher of the two, but Scott had the better body for sure. Rick, had a history NCAA's. I don't know what he finished in, but he was wrestling in the early '80s in NCAA. I don't know. I don't think he won it, but he was like finished in the top 100. He was part of that varsity club that they had in the NWA with him and Roma and not Roma. Who was it? IRS. He was involved with it. I think they were doing a varsity gimmick where they were all college wrestlers with a letter company or something. I think it was WCW back in like '86 or something like that.
Well, let me ask you this, guys. The guys are really big dudes, but what kind of bullying did you have to deal with when you guys were wrestling back in the day?
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, Monty, no motherfucker ever thought about bullying me because I'd tie him up and chew him up and spit him out and send him fucking packing with his tail between his legs, I consider myself a great amateur wrestler. I consider myself a shooter, and if that makes me tough, then I guess tough I am. But, I've never lost a fight in my life, that's for sure.
All right, let me change the question then. Was there ever an attempt to bully you? And when I mean bullying, it doesn't necessarily have to be physical, right? It could be mental abuse, right? You're trying to work, support your family, that type of bullying.
Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe Shawn Michaels tried to bully me one time when he came out, was talking to me about Paul, and I didn't really appreciate it, and I fucking told him that, I was like, listen, this ain't none of your fucking business. It has nothing to do with you. And, why'd you want to get me talking about Shawn Michaels, Marco Monty, you motherfucker? I got this. I got a story.
Well, that's how you conduct an interview, sir. That's how it works.
Yeah, since you brought up Shawn Michaels, I got a story that was told to me years ago that I just couldn't believe it myself. But after I got to thinking about it, it all made perfect sense. So it was WrestleMania weekend in New York City, probably about 5-6 years ago. And I'm sitting in the hotel room with Billy Jack Haynes. And Billy Jack says, hey, big man, he says, I got a story for you. I says, hey, I'm always up for a big story, bro. He's like, well, you don't want Shawn Michaels? He said, yeah. He says, I got one hell of a story to tell you about Shawn Michaels. He says, how they call him the Heartbreak Kid? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, well, and the boy toy, and that's what it was, the boy toy. I was like, well, yeah. I said, that's part of his little gimmick. And he says, well, they call him a boy toy for a reason. I says, well, what reason would that be, Billy Jack? He was like, well, one day, he says, I think we were down in Texas somewhere. And he says, and I had a hotel room right next to Shawn Michaels. And he says, I came back to the hotel from drinking probably 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And I heard over this fucking bed hitting the wall and keeping me up and shit, making all these noises next door. And I'm like, man, someone's really banging the shit out of some fucking broad, And it just went on all night long. And so finally, Billy Jack said he got up, he took a shower, and he got his shit together. He was heading off to catch the red eye at the airport. And as he was doing that, he had one of his bags prop the door open, and he went back in the room to get the other bag. And as he came to the door at the second bag, who comes out of Shawn Michaels' fucking hotel room was Vince McMahon, Pat Patterson, and Steve Lombardi. And he said, that was Shawn Michaels fucking making all them exciting noises there. He says, I think they were all just hammered him all night long. He says, no woman came out of the room at all, man. He says it was strictly three dudes, Vince, Pat, and Lombardi. And I was like, wow, man. I was like, well, makes perfect sense. The boy toy, the sexy boy toy. He's their fucking boy toy. So they just give him a shoot fucking ring entrance music, and he's been the boy toy. But, you know, I heard Marty Jannetty. I was reading that I seen something on Sports TV or something about Marty Jannetty, and he said that he's been asked it a million times if Shawn Michaels was queer. And he was like, man, he says, I've been with Shawn millions of times on the road, and he says, I've only seen him with women. Now, just because somebody's only seen you with women doesn't mean that you've never been with a dude on a regular basis. You know, I mean, who's going to see you in an 8x10 fucking hotel room anyway? Nobody. So he's on his own time. He's on the road. He's with the boss and his cronies. And, you know, they're all fucking the shit out of him. And that's how he got a job. And that's how he kept his job. And that's how he got his position. I firmly believe it. I firmly believe that it's 100% true. You know, he's only 200 pounds soaking wet. I mean, he's a hell of a worker. But, he's no guy that you would think that you would naturally push as one of the top faces in the company. That's for sure.
Paul, what do you think of that? Those comments? That's pretty tough stuff right there.
You know what? I just don't even know how to follow that, man. That's Mike. Listen. I mean, all I know, I spent time with Shawn. When I first broke in the AWA, him and Marty were the tag champs up there and stuff like that. I got along with him then, but I mean, somewhere, you know what it's all about. I got railroaded in the WCW, and he was buddies with Scott Hall, and Scott Hall, I mean, there were so many guys that just hated me in the WCW because I was a fat guy getting a push. So, all the Schneid guys, they would just, they would start doing shit. So you want to talk about bullying. I mean, it wasn't physical bullying, but I'll tell you what, man, when you're in the clique and you're outside the clique, those are two different things. Because those guys
And APB, American Protection Bureau, voted #1 best on Long Island for all your security needs. Call 631-390-9050. That's 631-390-9050. APB.
You need a body shop? You need engine repair? Auto Excellence, Collision Specialists, 631-261-6420. That's 631-261-6420. Auto Excellence.
Shawn Michaels in the early days in the AWA, he was around. In fact, when I was going through Brad Ranges' camp up there in Plymouth, and Marty came down and they worked out with us in the ring and did some mock-up matches and stuff. The Nasty Boys were there and everything. It was the dealings I had with the WCW or with the AWA and Shawn were great. And then after a while, you want to talk about bullying. What happens is they don't bully you to your face. They do it behind your back. They do Schneid things. They tell lies about you, and they just try to get you fired. And that's basically what they did to me in the WCW back in the day. I got accused of getting into Rick Rude's wallet, and the confrontation Rick Rude and I had was over a rat that I wasn't even interested in, and he thought I was interested in her, and so I mean I took a punch, and I took a good punch, and he's got a good right hand, but I did more damage to his hand than he did to my face. And then that next day he was going, Jesus, he called me into his room. He says, News, what are we going to do, man? I don't want to get fired, because he was on that $100,000, 100 days deal that they had going on back there in the early 90s. I think Stan Hansen was on that deal. Williams was on that deal. And he just didn't want to lose his deal. And so we came up with a Bull Caucus story about arm wrestling. The table broke, and I hit my eye on a cabinet in my room, right? And I didn't think anything about it until a couple of years later. I saw Kurt Hennig at the King of the Ring, and he said, "Shame about you and Rick over a rat." And I said, "Dude, I denied it to Hennig, not even thinking about the fact how close Hennig and Rude were, both being Minnesota boys and everything like that." But yeah, no, the shit usually happened. Nobody confronts you to your face when you're a 350, 400-pound guy. What they do is they just do snide shit behind your back, trying to get you fired or get you moved on, And when you're a guy like Mike who looks the part, and he's in the WWF, you know what? They're going to do everything they can to get a guy like Mike fired, because they don't want to have to deal with his ass when he's on top. You know what I mean? So the business is kind of screwed up. But Sean, what happened in the WWF? I mean, I can only go with what Mike just said, what Billy Jack Haynes said. But you hear rumors and stuff like that. But I got no proof. I wish I was a fly on the wall. I'd love to know the truth about it. That's for sure.
Yeah, and let me just say that I wasn't there. I'm just a messenger. I'm just the one that heard the story. So I'm just passing the story on. So, I don't, like Paul said, I would love to be the fly on the wall, and we all know that they're all fucking queer anyway, but, I don't know. You don't really have any proof on Vince, and, everybody knows Steve Lombardi's a queer and Pat Patterson, and, you just, him and Sean are the fucking two outcasts that we don't really know, but we would love to know, right? So maybe it's a true story, maybe it's not, but I found it pretty fucking intriguing, man.
Bruce, you got a question for the boys before we let them take over their own show?
Yeah, well, I had some sad news before I jumped on. I read that one of the bushwhackers or sheep herders, Butch, has passed away. Did either of you guys have any chances to work with either of them, and any stories of them?
I never wrestled with him, but I was on a lot of shows with him in England and also in Germany. In fact, I don't know, Mike, I don't know, I think it was me and Brooksides, or it might have been me and you. They wanted us to wrestle him in Bremen at the time, and I think we ended up refusing to do the match with him. We wanted to do something different, or it might have been me and Robbie or something like that, but we were looking at something different. But I mean, those guys, the only thing I got to say about the Bushwhackers is I got a lot of respect for them. And what really screwed me up about them is that Vince McMahon took one of the toughest, a tag team, the Sheep Herders, had one of the toughest, hardest reputations in professional wrestling. They were having a great Japanese career in Japan, and Vince turned them into like cartoon characters, which I kind of felt sorry for them. But it gave them longevity because they weren't having to take the bumps, they weren't having to get beat up or anything like that. They were just they were going out there and they were doing that thing and doing their march and everything like that. And it was a show. It was a character. It was the 80s and early 90s. It was the era of PM News, for Christ's sakes.
Yeah, and the Bushwhackers were over like Rover, buddy. I mean, everybody in the audience used to be doing that sheep herder fucking shit, right? I mean, that was their gimmick.
Absolutely.
And they were really nice guys. I actually just seen a GoFundMe yesterday on Facebook for Butch Bushwhacker, and sorry to hear that he passed away, man. Another guy, one of the boys gone too soon, that's for sure. We haven't really lost a whole lot of people this year compared to some of the past years, but yeah, I mean, all our tickets are going to get punched one of these days, and you just have to kind of be prepared for it, right?
I'm gonna live forever. I'm gonna learn how to fly high, right? But no, yeah, it's a shame. Like I said, I got respect for them. At one point in the business, they were one of the most feared, tremendous tag teams in the industry. I prefer their Japan days to their New York days, but yeah, they were over and they sold merchandise to the kids like nobody's business. So more power to them. God rest Butch's soul, and hopefully we'll get to see him on the next go around.
Speaking of that, what was the most emotional one of you've gotten over losing one of your fellow wrestlers that you ran your career with? Can you guys think of anybody?
Yeah, somebody comes right to the top of my head. Losing my buddy Larry Cameron, died right in my arms in Bremen, Germany, in the early 90s. He was in the ring wrestling, and right in the middle of the match, he dropped down to the corner to one knee, and then he went from one knee down to laying on the canvas, and he had a massive heart attack, and he was pretty much dead before the rescue people, first aid people even got there. And, I remember them carrying him into the back, and as they were carrying him right by me, I see a guy that had a nice golden dark skin color, and he had already started to turn ash gray. And when I seen that, I knew that he was done. And, you just watched them try to work on him for 10 or 15 minutes, and there was just no coming back, man. He just had a huge, massive heart attack. And, AG was a great guy, man. He was a wonderful person to be on the road with. We had so much fun, could tell so many stories, man, about us being together. But that was one of the toughest times in my career. There was like 5 days left in the tour, and the boss says, well, whoever wants to take the rest of the tournament off, he says, I understand, I'll take care of you. And I was like, yeah, I'm one of them. And he was pretty pissed off that I took the last 5 days off, but he paid me. And, I think that eventually he understood, man, because, me and Larry were pretty tight. He hung out with Derek Dukes a lot at that time, and all three of us kind of hung together. And, Larry Cameron was a great dude, man. I know at one time he boxed Mark Gastineau in a boxing match up somewhere in New York, and totally beat his ass, totally showed Gastineau up and pissed Gastineau off. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of my depressing story about losing one of the boys, died right in my fucking arms, basically. And that's no fun, man. Knowing that somebody's dying and you can't do nothing to help them.
I've never had it that close. There's been so many guys that have died in this business that I've known from the time I've got in here, from the likes of Kurt Hennig, who was one of my first mentors in the AWA, and big giant Luke Haystacks. When he passed away, he was an English wrestler, was like 6'10" and 600 pounds, and I did a lot of stuff with him. And Haystacks, just a lovely fella. And it's hard to pick one to say that was harder than the other. The longer you're in this business, the more they start more people start dying, unfortunately. And that ain't going to change anytime soon, I'm sure. As Mike said earlier in the podcast, everybody's going to get their number punched at some point or another.
Well, let me ask you this: you guys are pretty close, right? You've had this long-standing relationship. I'd almost consider you guys brothers, or you are brothers. Now you're doing a show. Now you're doing a show together, right?
Absolutely.
What would it be like if one of you guys lost each other?
Man, I don't even want to think about that, man. I have a sister that's adopted, and And Paul's been like a big brother to me ever since I met him. And I can't even imagine what life would be like going forward without him here. You know, he's my partner, man. He's always there when I turn around. I'm always there when he turns around, and we always get each other's backs. And you know, there's strength in numbers, and it's better to have two of you than one of you. And you know, we've been through hell and high water together, but we've had a lot of fucking great times too, brother. Let me tell you.
Yeah, we've had some ridiculously good times. But the thing is yeah, Mike's right. It's just really it's hard to it's hard to really say because Mike and I have known each other for 32 years, and in those 32 years, we each keep trying to pull each other over the finish line. You know what I mean? It's like one of those. It's like one of those matches where the heel turns the baby face's back in the finish, and the other one drops an elbow and then pulls the other guy's arm over on top of the baby face so that his partner can get the pin. You know what I mean? We've been kind of like that since day one, and we've always said, we've always believed. You know what the thing is? I'll be honest, and this is a true to the word fact. I've had so many guys say it to me. People don't like it when me and Mike are together because I think most people are afraid of what we might be able to accomplish.
They're intimidated
I think, yeah,
because of what we could do together.
Exactly. We could accomplish quite a lot of stuff, and I think most people are afraid about that and definitely intimidated from it. And in a way, it makes me feel good, and at the same time, when I don't know what I'm going to do when one of us is if I'm the first to go, thank God, because I don't have to watch it. I won't have to carry his big ass down the aisle at the church. Mike and about 12 other people are going to have to carry my fat ass down.
You can say that again. Probably about 24 other fucking people.
24.
I think do me a favor. If you're planning on dying anytime soon, go on a fucking diet.
Dude, ain't gonna happen.
I don't feel like carrying 460 through the church, man. Don't chill. Some fucking growth hormone, some steroids.
Don't worry. Then I'll carry you, man, because I got some big ass shoulders, bro. I got big ass shoulders. I'll carry you.
That's one hell of a set of shoulders you got there, bro.
I'll tell you what, man.
Simply massive.
Massive. Yeah. It's another word for fat bastard.
But I gotta tell you, man. I was thinking the other day, I was sitting outside on my lanai, looking out at the beautiful sunset, smoking a joint, and I was like, I've really had a great wrestling career, and the best time that I've ever had in life is when we were wrestling for Otto over in Europe. I mean, that was like a 8.5 month vacation. We all owned our own campers. We owned our own cars. We used to pull them from town to town. And, these camping places over in Europe, they're like 5-star hotels, man. They're top notch. They're not like these KOA fucking shitty ass camping spots we got here in the United States. These are prime camping spots in Europe, man. And it was just nice, man. You stay up till, come back from the show, drink your beer, man, fire up the grill at 2 o'clock in the morning, cook some burgers and steaks on there, be up till the sun rises, man, and have coffee with the fucking chickens and the roosters, man. It was great, man.
Nothing beat Vienna, man, being outside we were like 30 kilometers outside of Vienna. 30 kilometers outside of Vienna, a place called Luxembourg, not Luxembourg, but Luxembourg was this town. And it was a town, maybe 300 people, had a restaurant and the best ice cream salon in the world right there, where you could just get the best ice gelatis. And we were on this camping place, had a swimming pool, it had a park, it had a castle. There was a castle and a moat in the middle of the park. This place was insane. And we were living there for near 2 months. And we'd have Mondays off. And the great thing about it is At the Hoymark, it was an outdoor arena, and we had to be finished at 10 in the evening. So the show was over at 10 in the evening, no matter what. And then we'd have to be back there at like 7 o'clock the next evening. So our lives were our own. We had so much fun, and it was the heart of summer right there in Vienna. Hungary was it was just over the border. You could go shopping, you could eat food, buy cheap clothes.
They had the world's biggest Ferris wheel at the theme park,
The Prater,
miles down the road, and
the Prater Stern.
That was a great time. Outdoor arena. We were on one side of us was the big Hotel Intercontinental. On the other side was the famous Opera House, and on the opposite side was like 8 or 10 professional tennis courts. And then they had the main street at the front of the hall, and where the bars were and stuff on the street. And it was just an electric atmosphere, man. There's just something about being in an outdoor arena, the sun's coming down, and you're out there fucking entertaining 5,000 or 6,000 people, and it is just a blast, man. I mean, you don't even feel like you're working.
1989, Otto Wanz against Big Van Vader sold the arena out in Vienna. I was there, and we had our dressing rooms. Our windows would show out just right over the arena, and there was 5,000 fans sold out, and there were people climbing over the walls to get into this place for free. There was hundreds of people climbing over the walls. It was insane. The police were chasing all these fans all over the place, trying to catch up to them and stuff before the show would get started. But oh my God, what an atmosphere! Those Austrian fans really did. They loved wrestling. They really did. Or the Liebenauer Ice Holly there in Graz, Austria, Otto Wanz's hometown, man. 3,500 people in that ice hall. Man, those people used to go insane. I love that, man. Miss those days.
You got Boden, you got Hanover, Germany, you got Bremen, Germany. And, these fans are diehard wrestling fans, and they thought wrestling was a shoot back then. We used to have this gimmick to where the referee would have yellow and red cards. And if he give you a yellow card, that means he would fine you, like for choking somebody. The heel would choke the guy and stuff, and the baby face would get pissed off and choke the heel back, and the referee would catch him. So the referee would fine him like $300, and fucking shit ton of fans, man, they believed that we actually had to pay them fines out of our own pocket. These fans would run up to the ring. This guy would give 100, this guy would give 50. The 10 ladies behind him would each give him a 20 apiece. And before you know it, man, you got like $500 or $600 paying a $300 fine. And they didn't know it, but after the night was over, we split it all up, man, into equal parts. And that was our drinking money. That was our partying money. And it was like that every night of the week.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. That sounds relatively fraudulent, man. I wasn't a part of that. I kept everything.
Yeah, we spent every cent and then some, man. That was some great.
I did a title match. It was because they were tournaments, so we'd be in the same hall. Like, okay, so in Hanover, for example, we were there for 2 months, and we were in a tent on a place called the Schützenplatz. And we'd have the Oktoberfest for half the tournament, or for 2 or 3 weeks of the tournament, we'd have the Oktoberfest right next door. And we used to just we'd sit there, we'd have our shows, and then we'd go into the beer tents, have a few beers. Well, at the end of the tournament, and they were tournaments, and you get 3 points for a win, 1 point for a draw, and no points for a loss. And so at the end of the tournament, all these points were accumulated, and then the last night of the tournament, then the two guys with the most points and the second most points, they'd go for the title of the tournament, and then the third and fourth would fight for third place. And we used to go in there, and me and Rambo one night, Luc Portier, who was part of the Truth Commission with Mike for a little while, me and Luke went in there, and we ended up making 1,700 Deutschmarks in one match, and that was like $1,000 US that we pulled down in one match on premiums, what we would call premiums in those days.
Yeah, I mean,
You know,
just
it was, you know,
unheard of stuff happened in Europe, you know, and anybody who was somebody in the professional wrestling world, they all went through Europe territory. They all went through Otto Vance's company. And, you know, there was a lot of guys, JBL, Chris Benoit, Owen Hart, Papa Shango, all these guys, man, just would come through Europe. And, you know, some would stay for a tournament, some would stay for the whole time, some would just come in for a championship. But anybody who was somebody in professional wrestling eventually made it through the CWA company at one time or another in their lifetime.
And New Japan guys too. Back in the day, New Japan had to deal with Otto, and they'd bring in all those Japs. So Hashimoto, Funaki, Fujinami would come over. They had Chono, Masahiro Chona. Even Masahiro Chono ended up marrying a friend of ours. Martina ended up being his wife, and he met her in Bremen, Germany. And they're still together today. Got 2 kids together, and they live in Japan. But there's literally. It was a who's who, and I noticed Mike forgot to mention his buddy Scott Hall, because Scott Hall was over there as well. Glenn was over there. The Kane came through. Glenn Jacobs, even Jim Neihart came over one year, and then Otto used to bring in these guys in Bremen. In the Bremen, we'd wrestle 5 weeks in the Bremen Shot Hall. And we were in hall number 4, and that hall held about 4,000 people. Well, the big hall held 10,000 people. So that was Otto's bonus. He was a partner with the halls and some sponsors, and he was partnered. And their bonus was they gave Otto the full gate of the last night of the tournament, 10,000 people. That was his gate, and that would pay for the whole tournament, including all the guys and all the thing for the whole tournament. I'm talking from April to December. It paid everybody's wages. So anything else that Otto made the whole year, it was in his pocket. And he used to bring in guys like Dick Murdoch, Nick Bockwinkel. He brought in on Andre the Giant, Mad Dog Vachon. All the top wrestlers in the 80s and 90s used to come over and wrestle Otto for that for the CWA title. And Otto was also a AWA title holder for a short time as well, and that got him hooked. That's what got him hooked up really well with New Japan. So he took the AWA title, paid for the AWA title, took that over, and then he was able to defend the AWA title in Japan and everything like that. Otto was a shrewd, very smart businessman.
But what an investment when he bought that title off of Vern to use it. Because after he did, he became like a god in Europe wrestling, right? I mean, he was the man in Austria and Germany. And
without TV,
no TV. And that investment made him a millionaire, no doubt about it, man.
Can I ask a question on that though? He buys the title for how long? Is it for a certain year?
He held it for about a year. In fact, that's the first time I met Otto. Was he just dropped the belt back? I think he dropped it back to Nick at that point in the AWA when I just started.
So Paul, when he travels with it to Japan or whatever else, does he also have to kick back some of that money to Vern, or is it all his? Because
that was all his. He bought the belt, and that was all his. He wasn't going to Japan for the big payout. He was going to Japan for his opportunity to become a bigger star. Because when he came back to Austria is a country of 8 million people. You know, and when he came back to Austria, he was like he was on TV all the time, doing game shows, doing all this stuff. He was on the radio, doing commercials. He was a big name in Germany. He had contact to all the superstars. In fact, he got a guy who wrote songs. He wrote us a song, and we did this song called Young, Strong, and Healthy went all the way to the top of the charts. It went to #1 in Austria in the pop charts. A bunch of wrestlers singing this song. And then we did a follow-up song, and it even got into the charts in Germany and everything like that. So I mean, he was a shrewd businessman. And then he'd do something. He'd say, "Hey, Paul, I got a commercial for you. You're gonna beat up a Mazda M3." And I went, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, I'll give you a commercial." So I mean, I got a good payout, but I know he probably made it twice as much as I did. You know what I mean? Just
if he was paying you,
if
he was paying you $500 to do some promotional shit, you knew Otto was making $5,000, right? I mean,
yeah, exactly.
I remember the time Otto talked to Paul and I. He was like, "Hey man, I want you two guys to get in this fucking smart car. The smart car people want to do some advertisements with you." And so Paul and I, both 400-pound wrestlers, we get shoulder to shoulder in fucking smart car, and sideways we're stuffed in there like sardines. But there was a shit ton of room in the front and on the head and in the back, but it was just a 2-seater. And we got out, we picked that fucking smart car up off the fucking ground, and they're snapping their fucking pictures, click, 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 click. And man, it was just a lot of fun, And Otto, he set you up with dinner engagements over the course of the week. Restaurants would want to sponsor the wrestlers, so they would bring all the wrestlers in, feed us, give us free drinks, just because we brought all the fans with us. And it was like that on a nightly basis. I mean, there were some weeks where I never had to pay 1 penny out of my pocket because we had so many different dinner engagements that we were invited to. We would go to nightclubs. We would go every fucking where, man. We would go in the city center and just stand out there and take pictures and shit, Sometimes, I mean, it was fun. I mean, it was literally the best time of my life.
Talking about the food, Mike, remember that place in Graz? We always used to go to that big butchery.
Yes.
So there's a huge butchery, right? And so every year it's the same thing. We get toured around it. We take a tour around the whole butchery where they're slaughtering the meat and doing all this stuff. And at the end, they'd sit there and feed us, and they'd feed us top dollar steaks and
wine.
Wine and everything. And so we had Funaki there the first year. Funaki, I think, and these steaks were like a kilo each, and Funaki had like 5 of those steaks. And then that year that Manuel Yarborough came in, he had like 5 or 6 steaks. And then on the way back to the hotel, he stopped at McDonald's and grabbed like 10 Big Macs.
Well,
you remember Manuel Yarborough? He was that sumo wrestler that
How could I forget Emmanuel Yarborough, man? I mean, this guy. I mean, as far as #1 experiences in my wrestling career, my sumo match with Emmanuel Yarborough is #1 by far. This guy came over. He was the American sumo champion. He'd fight back.
World sumo champion.
World champion. Yeah,
world amateur sumo.
And this guy was huge. He was like 6'7", 660. He was fucking huge. And the first time he came into Bremen, Otto picked 5 of his wrestlers to wrestle this guy. And what he would do is he would treat the ring like the sumo platform, and he would put 2 pieces of tape down in the middle. And the deal was, if you touched the ropes any way, shape, or form, that was like going out of the sumo arena. So basically, you lost. And so he picked 5 of his top guys. An Englishman, he had his arm wrapped up. He was fucking hurt. He was old school. He had no chance anyway. He was just there because he was one of the top baby faces. Had a German, Ulf Hermann. Didn't really have any skills outside the ring. Didn't really have many skills inside the ring, to be honest with you. But he put him in there. He put Austria's strongest man, August Schmeisel, in there. He put Paul in there and myself in there. And so the night started. Emmanuel fucking crushed Tony Sinclair in like 2 minutes, flattened him away like a fucking fly, threw him right through the ropes. Ulf Hermann came, beat him in like fucking 4 seconds. Paul went. Paul gave him a good go for about 30 seconds or so, but Paul lost. And then the Austria strongman went, and he lasted about 40 seconds, but he ended up losing. And now it's me. And so I got to be the one to save the day for the boys. And so I was all about stepping up to the fucking plate and eating this guy's fucking lunch, man, and showing him how it's fucking done in the real world. And I was in the back, man. I'm doing my Japanese Hindu squats. You know, Paul and I did this thing because we were tag champs over there. We'd hit cross forearms 3 times and fucking headbutt each other. And we're standing right outside the ring. And all the wrestlers are in the back of the hall, drinking, taking bets and shit. And I remember me and Paul fucking Manuel Yarbrough's in the ring already. He just finished wrestling the Austria Strongman. He's had about a 15-minute fucking break. He's got his back to me across the ring. And so I'm outside the ring, man. Me and Paul are getting ready. And so we cross 3 forearms, and I headbutt Paul. I headbutt him so fucking hard. I fucking split my fucking head wide open right in the middle. Blood fucking everywhere. About fucking, I seen stars. I hit Paul so hard. I think Paul seen fucking stars. Paul gets back to the back of the joint, and they were like, man, how's he gonna do? Is he ready? And Paul's like, he's gonna fuck him up, man. And I got in the ring, man. I'm bouncing around like a fucking Muhammad Ali, man. And you know, when it came to start, when he fucking turned around and he seen all that blood coming down my fucking face, he was already psyched out. At that moment, he was finished, man. And I remember put my fucking knuckles down on that line, man, and we hit, boom, you're like talking over 1,000 pounds of fucking man hitting each other, right? Full fucking bore, man. We locked each other up, man, and the first thing I did was get control of this fucking sumo fucking diaper. And so I got him controlling him, and I noticed that every time I was pushing him fucking really hard, he'd always give me 110% pushback. And I did this like 3 or 4 times. And so now I'm setting this fucker up. So finally, I fucking push him fucking really super hard. He pushes back even harder. I put my right foot behind his fucking ankle and fucking give him a shove in his fucking chest. This motherfucker toppled over like a 250-foot oak tree out in the forest. Kaboom! He fucking landed right on his back. This fucking place, 10,000 people, man, exploded, man. The fucking roof came up. I'm getting goosebumps on my arms just telling the story because I can feel the fucking adrenaline from that time of doing this fucking thing, man. I was like, fuck yeah, man. I was so fired up, man. I was like, yeah, you did it, Chuck. Way to go, man. The fucking boys fucking live on, man. And you know, I think Paul was able to beat him again after that because I think he came back again the next year. Because
what happened was
after I did that gimmick, I went to New York and did the Mantaur character. So I was gone for 9 months or a year. And so they brought him back, and then Paul wrestled him and ended up beating him, right? But that first night that he came over, man, everybody was looking at this guy like he was a fucking giant. He was huge, massive.
No, that was quite funny because I did it. I got him in Vienna, right? And Mike and I were major heels at this time over in Germany. You know what I mean? There were like on the regular team, it was Mike, myself, Finley, and like Danny Collins were like the top heels. And the thing is Otto brought him back into Vienna, and this was my chance. And we had remember Lester, Mike, what was his name? Rasta, the Voodoo Man.
Oh yeah,
nice big black guy, just nice fella, really nice fella, and stuff like that. Ex-football player and an ex-buddy. He was Emmanuel Yarbrough's buddy. They both knew each other from New York, and so we did. I think Akira Nagami, myself, and I can't remember who else he put in there besides Lester. There was like 2 others, and then what happened is. So I was second last because Otto knew he beat me in Bremen, right? So I wasn't, I wasn't top of the bill. So the deal was like, you know how those dressing rooms are, you're looking down over the ring and everything like that, and you can see Finley's right up against those shades. You can see the outline of his heads and everything. He's right up against the window, right? And so. So I'm out there and I'm ready to go, and I'm taking a page out of your book. And so when I get a hold of his diaper, and he starts to pull me one way, right? So I blocked it, right? And he just keeps going back to the same move, and I blocked it again. And so the third time he went to block it, I just went with him, and he went toppling over, and the place in Vienna, the place just went nuts, right? And you can over everybody, you could hear Finley screaming up there in the dressing room, just excited as hell that I got the win over the fella and stuff like that.
And it really was a great accomplishment because it was a fucking shoot. I mean,
yeah,
it was
yeah,
real.
absolutely.
I mean, it was, it was man versus man, and either you got fucking punked out or you were at the top of the mountain, and I'm not trying to get punked out, man. I ate that fucking lunch, and I remember when I dropped him, and I for a split second I was thinking we were in a real wrestling match, and I went to cover him, and I went to touch the fucking mat, and my fingertips were like 4 inches from touching the fucking mat. That's how fucking thick this guy was from back to front. And he was just enormous. And, that was probably the number one accolade in my professional wrestling career because that was a shoot. This guy was a big motherfucker. And it was great, man. I was super proud of myself. And, just all them years of amateur wrestling background, winning world championships and national championships, all that shit just finally came to a head, and it was the greatest moment practically of my entire life, to be honest with you. It was just fantastic, man. So, on that note, everybody, it's that time of day where our time here on this podcast. Michael Monty, should we finish it up, or do you have anything more to say?
Well, I think Bruce has got one last question, and then we'll call it a night.
Okay, perfect. Let's shoot, Bruce.
So, all right, guys. So since we're coming off what traditionally is the biggest week of professional wrestling, WrestleMania, what do you guys think of the modern product? And are there any, what wrestlers nowadays would you guys like to face off against?
Ooh, well, I think the product today is absolute fucking the shits.
Hey, Mike, stop. Don't hold anything back. Say exactly what you mean.
I'm going to say exactly what I mean. The product today fucking sucks, man. I mean, not one person. I mean, there's only been one story told out of the whole company, and that's the Usos and the head of the table. That's the only story. And, if you're going to have 100 guys on the roster, then you better have 5 or 10 stories going along there. And it's not that they're telling stories when they're wrestling from week to week. They're telling that story. But when they're in the ring, they're not telling a fucking story. This guy's flying around doing here camaradas and jumping off the fucking top rope and blah, blah, here and there. It makes no fucking sense. Guys are out there taking bumps left and right. It just makes no fucking sense. When I was brought up in the business, I was always told less is more. And these young kids today that are out there 175, 80 pounds, flying around the fucking ring like chickens with their heads cut off, that makes no fucking sense to me. I want to see wrestling holds. I want to see chain wrestling. And you don't see that shit anymore. The old school wrestling days are over. And now it's all about the new generation, and the new generation fucking sucks.
Well, you know what? I mean, let's be clear. It's not about the boys. The boys the athletes are more talented than ever. They look after themselves way better than we did back in the day. So you can't blame the guys, but the only problem is these guys have never learned the proper way to tell a story. And then the way that they are being brought in and through the business, there's nobody teaching them that, because a lot of these guys, what they do is they sit there and they watch WCW or WWE, excuse me. They watch what's on TV and they think that's what professional wrestling is. So what do you get? You get all these independent companies trying to emulate the WWE, and every small company thinks they are the WWE. So they want to have 12 matches. It's all about a WrestleMania and stuff like that. And you got 12 matches and you're trying to get it on in a short time. First of all, there's no time to tell a story. And second of all, nobody understands the art of telling the story or the structure of the story. Now, these come from the top down. I mean, back in the day when I started in the 80s, I mean, you were led by the hand. If you were green, guys would get you through it. They'd put you with an experienced guy, and that experienced guy would teach you how. Would teach you how to tell a story. I was very fortunate early on in my career. I got to work guys like Len Denton, the grappler, or Dave Sierra, Cuban Assassin, or I would work with, or they brought in Mike Golden to work with my tag team partner, and he was hard on me, but he really taught me a lot about how to tell a wrestling story, the art of a tag match. I'm probably one of the last guys that actually knows how to tell a proper tag story. And then I also had guys like Randy Colley, Moondog Rex, which was tremendous, and I worked with him. And he comes from the old school, the squat school of thought. And those guys were all in psychology and all into backing up what they did. Today it's the kids. Definitely the product has me wanting something else. It's something that I can't really watch anymore because it just doesn't. It's like movies today. It's hard to watch a movie sometimes because what's coming out of Hollywood right now is either got an agenda to it and they don't give a shit about the story. They just want to play the agenda game. And I prefer keeping the agenda out of the gimmick and just tell a good story. Use as I said on one of our former casts, is that at the art of telling a story, current events draw, and these are the things that need to come back to. We need to come back to that, and I just don't think it's ever going to happen. But jobs completely different animal.
I mean, Michael Monty, I was speaking to you yesterday on the telephone, and you called the finish, and I agreed with you, and we were both right in the Roman Reigns Cody Rhodes. Fucking Vince totally swerved everybody, and I think it's fucking fantastic, making them want more. I mean, what the WWE is doing right now when it comes to putting asses in seats and selling tickets, man, they are at the top of their fucking game. They just had over collectively 165,000 people attended WrestleMania, and it was the WWE's biggest gate ever, and they just sold the fucking company right after, the day after their biggest event in history and of all time. They just sold the company for $9.8 billion. So for fuck's sakes, Vince is obviously doing something right, And
but he came back.
One thing, guys, I want to make it clear. They didn't sell, they merged, right? So they still own 49%.
For sure.
Right. And look, the one thing's for sure, the WWE's hot, but you know what else is hot? SOB Sports. You guys, fantastic episode 5. I got to tell you, loving it. Do you guys want to bring us out or what?
We appreciate it.
Coming from a legend in the podcast world like you are, Michael Monty, I take that as a real fucking pat on the back, man. So let me do a Barry Horowitz and pat myself on the back, man. Good job, simply outstanding.
Hey, let me just add. Let me add. I want everybody to take that into effect. Yeah, Monty, you did a great job. Thanks for stepping up tonight. We had our situation, and you stepped in, and appreciate it, man. We handed you the ball on 3-yard line, and you ran it right into the goal line, past the goal line, and we appreciate that. And I just want I want to tell all the fans that are listening to like and subscribe to Monty and the Pharaoh, like and subscribe to SOB Sports, and stay tuned because episode 6 is going to even be better. We're coming back at you. We're big, we're bad, and we're pretty much worldwide.
Yeah, you got the Final Four championship is on tonight. We got the Masters golf tournament starting this weekend. So we got a lot of subjects to talk about that we haven't even begun to touch on yet. And so, good luck to the 2 competitors tonight, University of Connecticut and San Diego State in the championship game. I hope one of them teams comes out. I'm sure everybody's going to come out victorious and have a great time. The center for San Diego State, Aguka Rock, he graduated from my alma mater in Omaha, Nebraska, Omaha South High School. So I'm rooting for San Diego State Aztecs tonight, everybody, and the South High alumni. And Michael Monty, thanks for bringing your guest on as your surprise guest, man. He really threw us out a couple good questions out there. We're glad to have him. Please do that again in the future. And so, on that note, everybody, the motto here at SOB Sports is, you only die once, but you live every fucking day. Woo!
Yo, baby, yo, baby, yo.
All right, boys. Good job. I'm going to end this recording.
Thanks, Monty. Appreciate you, buddy.
Hey, guys.
Thanks,